Good afternoon, everyone. So glad you could join us this afternoon as we celebrate libraries and the valuable contribution made by librarians and all library staff throughout our state. I am Zack, your state treasurer. April is full of dates that celebrate libraries on a national level. Each year in April, our nation celebrates School Library Month, National Library Week, and National Library Workers Day. There is nothing like the familiar smell you get when you first walk into a library. Seeing so many shelves full of books, all that excitement about the possibility and the curiosity that unfold. Libraries provide resources and opportunities beyond just checking out books. They offer access to technology, multimedia content, and educational programs, not only for children, but also for teens and adults. It takes a great team of great individuals to keep our libraries safe, clean, and organized for our community. That's why we invited Kelvin Watson, the new executive director for the Las Vegas Clark County Library District, to join us today so he can talk to us about his individual journey, the impact libraries have on our community, the importance of reading, and how wonderful it must be to work in a library every day. Kelvin Watson earned his bachelor's in science degree and business administration and a minor in military science from Lincoln University and his master of library science degree from North Carolina Central University. He is a member of the Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity and has received numerous awards for his leadership within the library industry. Kelvin, first and foremost, welcome to Nevada. We're happy to have you.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Thanks for joining us to speak today about libraries. There's also going to be a test on the end at the Dewey decimal system. So just, psych yourself up.
All right. Okay. I'll be looking. I'm sure I can pass that test.
Okay, great. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your childhood. Where'd you grow up?
So I grew up in the Midwest. I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri. So grew up there. I'm the oldest of three, and was before I went to college, I attended St. Louis public schools, but I also attended high school as part of the Missouri desegregation program. So I attended a desegregated high school as part of, as I was growing up.
Okay, and then from there, you ended up in Florida for a bit, correct?
Actually, I grew up there, and then I went to college, and that's in Lincoln University. At Lincoln University, Lincoln is in Jefferson City, Missouri, just a couple of hours away from St. Louis. My journey, we'll talk then, is to Florida was longer. So from there, after graduating from Lincoln, I received a commission in the United States Army. So I went through the ROTC program, and so I am also an infantry officer. I served a few years of active service in Georgia, which is where I went after I left Lincoln. I was stationed at Fort Stewart, Georgia, which is just south of Savannah. And I was also stationed at Fort Benning, the home of the infantry. So did a short tour overseas, and I said I spent a few years there, left, decided to leave active Army, actually. And I moved to Nashville, Tennessee, where I became a Army reservist, and I worked for a book distribution company.
Okay.
So Nashville, Tennessee, was there for 8 years as I grew in my career, doing book distribution, sales, marketing. And I moved to Michigan after that. So I worked for Borders. If you've ever been to a Borders bookstore, I used to be in charge of their marketing and events for a few years before they went out of business. That's where I went to library school. Actually, I did the online program at North Carolina Central, and that was Michigan. I moved from Michigan to West Virginia. So I lived in West Virginia. From there, I lived in the DC, Maryland area, where I worked for the Department of Agriculture and the National Agricultural Library. That was in the DC, Maryland area. From there, I went to New York. I worked for the Queens Library after that. And then I was in Florida as the director of Broward County Libraries prior to coming here as director of Las Vegas Clark County Library District.
Okay, well, you've lived in a lot of states, but you're ending in the right one. So that's good. Congratulations. Hopefully you'll be here for quite some time.
That's the plan.
Where in that story did you decide that you wanted to be in the business of libraries?
So when I worked for the book distribution company, Ingram, the company is Ingram Book Company in Nashville, Tennessee, I worked in the library services division, actually. So that was probably when I started, I call it reintroduction to libraries. right? You grow up and you're a kid, you go to libraries, you go to story time, you remember that, you remember checking in and out the books. And then you go to high school, college, and others, and you might go to the library to study. So I was reintroduced to libraries when I was at Ingram, and that kind of started my journey. I started getting involved with library associations, the American Library Association, for example, as well as the Black Caucus of the American Library Association. I became members of those organizations prior to me getting a library degree. So that just kind of started that trajectory. And most people thought that I had my Master's of Library Science well before I actually received it, because I just learned a lot about libraries. As I said, I was in sales. So, and in those sales positions, I sold books and other services to libraries. So it was good to be very knowledgeable about libraries, which would make me a pretty successful salesperson.
Now, and not to get too off topic here, but as
Yeah,
a
yeah.
salesperson selling books, now I'm curious, are you pitching specific books from your publisher? Obviously, are there types of books that do better or worse in libraries? Right? How does that all work?
That's an interesting question. So Ingram actually was or is a book wholesaler. So they're in wholesale distribution. So they distribute books for thousands of publishers. So when you sell, a book, the really for a library, it's really about the value added services, which is what we did. Right. So if you if I don't know when the last time you were in the library, Zach. So but if you
I
go to
have
the
three
library.
young kids, so within the
Okay.
last 10 days.
All right. So you've seen the plastic covers on the books, right?
Sure.
And the labeling and some of those things. And so the book distributor will do that service for the public library.
Okay.
And so that's what we sold, the value add. So it wasn't just that we were selling To Kill a Mockingbird. We were selling To Kill a Mockingbird with some with the Dewey Decimal System label on it, or a clear plastic jacket. And so when you receive the books, they were actually what we call shelf ready. That way you just take them out of the box and you put them on the shelf.
Got
That's
it.
it.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So that's how it works. That's how it works.
All right. See, now we're getting behind the scenes in the library. It's kind of behind in the back cover,
Right.
in the appendix, if you will.
Yeah.
The I will have to say those plastic covers do some serious work. We have 3-year-old twins, and they do not start treating the books in the same way that our 3-year-old, or now 7-year-old, but our 3-year-old daughter did at the time. It's a different book reading experience. So we're hopeful for those covers. But now you started with a business degree, right? You had a minor in military science, which I assume meant that you were intending kind of at the beginning of that process, or maybe in the middle of that process, to go into the military. Our office helps Nevadans plan for, save for, and pay for college at, and this is our first constitutionally required commercial break, at navigate.gov. That's nvigate.gov. How did you make that decision to go to college there? Tell us a little bit about your educational journey. Did you use, I'm curious, was ROTC the plan to help you pay for school at the beginning?
So in high school, as you say, I was probably very academic. I was academically smart, so that was an opportunity. So ROTC was not actually. So that's another journey. So I grew up in the inner city, as I said, St. Louis. Mother, single mom, 3 kids. I'm the oldest. Wanted to go to college. She was not making minimum wage, and so that I'm talking late 80s, early 90s. I'm showing my age, but think about what the minimum wage was back then.
Sure.
So certainly that was difficult. To plan, I mean, I wanted to go to college and I thought I was going to play football actually, but I was not. I was pretty good, but not like I'm not like 6'4", 6'5", and so I had some opportunities for partial football scholarships, and I decided that I would join the Army Reserves the junior year of high school on what's called the delayed entry program. Not that I'm
Sure.
trying to sell the Army, but that's what I
Yeah,
did. I
no,
did the
of course.
delayed entry program. And they, of course, had the GI Bill. So like, okay, I'll do this my junior year. I'll go to school, my senior year of high school. I'll graduate. I'll get the GI Bill. That's how I'll pay for college. My Army recruiter actually recommended the ROTC route to me. He said, thought I was smart enough to get an ROTC scholarship, and with my grades and my extracurricular activities. And so I applied and I received 2 ROTC scholarships. I received a 3-year as well as a 4-year to any historically Black college or university, actually, that offered the ROTC program. And I selected Lincoln University because I also had an academic scholarship to Lincoln to go along with my ROTC scholarship. So that was so that's how I ended. I mean, that's how I started that process. And of course, you make that commitment. I had already made it as a 17-year-old, actually, that I was going to be affiliated with the military, and certainly going in as an officer is a much better route than being an enlisted soldier.
So when you were trying to figure out how you were going to pay for college, because we get this question a lot from Nevadans, right? And they're trying to take what you did, which was take one level of scholarship, take another level of scholarship, figure out a way that they can go together. Who were you able to turn to for help with that? Did you just muddle through? What advice do you have for students who are trying to figure that piece out?
Well, there's 2 answers to that. One is Kelvin kind of muddled through. My mother did not. So my mom was not. My mom was a high school graduate. She didn't attend college, and so I kind of had to figure it out. Did work with some counselors at high school, but ultimately it was my mom made I was a pretty self independent kid, so I did everything myself. Now, as I'm much older and I've been working in libraries, and I understand that there are resources and support out there, like the library, for example, where I could have gone and I could have received some information from the librarians about college, about scholarships, about and then just the library itself with the resources. And so that's why I say it's two. There's a Kelvin, 30 something years ago, and there's me now who I know a lot better. If I was going back, that's what there were resources available to me. There's resources like what you offer from your office as well. You just got to do a little research, and with technology and where we are today, that it can be much easier. That's why I would say that it can.
No, that's right. I mean, I remember when I was applying for schools, it was my parents and I trying to make phone calls and figure things out. It's a lot different with Google.
Yes.
Kids these days, right?
Yes.
Okay, so one of the questions that we had submitted for this was, folks are asking if you need to be, and this is their phrase, not mine. So, do you have to be a bookworm to realize you should pursue a career in library sciences?
I would say no. The answer is no. I happen to be someone who likes to read books, and I no longer read books. Zach. I listen to most of my books now.
Interesting. Okay.
Actually, so I am an audiobook person. I've been an audiobook. I've preferred audiobooks actually going back to when I was doing sales, because I was in a car driving.
Sure.
I could just stick a CD in, or actually
Yeah.
in my case an audio cassette. But now so that's my preferred method. But no, the answer is no. You don't have to be a someone who likes to read. I think that's that's a stereotype that
Yes.
that we are readers.
Try to break those here in the
yeah, so we're not necessarily not all of us are readers. I happen to be a reader, but I was always a reader even when I was a kid. So I would be the kid. I'm gonna tell you a funny story that folks might relate to. And again, I was not prepared. I was not planning to be a librarian. So I was a kid in the 3rd grade, and I had watched Sidney Sheldon's Master of the Game. a mini series or something. So I went to the library and checked that book out, which was probably bigger than me, and then read it from cover to cover. So that's an example of me, someone again who loves reading and learning, and but you don't have to be. You can, you can work. I'm the executive director. I don't necessarily work with the public day to day. I do understand it, as you can see. I understand a lot about libraries and books, and that's why I'm in my role. But I also understand business, and I also understand partnerships and other things. So there are other roles in the library outside of what you traditionally see, right? So
For sure.
yeah,
for sure. And so how do you spend most of your time? Is most of your time spent managing people? Is most of your time spent managing processes? A little bit of both?
little bit of both, and throw a little strategy in there, throw some vision in there, throw some an overused word, innovation, in there, but throw that word in there. But I focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion in this technological world. And that's the view that I bring to the library, because I've had an opportunity to work in technology, electronic books, digital, the audio books. And I actually, when I mentioned I lived in West Virginia, I worked for a library software company. And so I understand and know a little bit about building software and technology. So those are the things that I bring to this role, which is somewhat unique. If you think about my career and again that trajectory, that I've had that opportunity to do lots of things. So I bring all of that. My day could be all of those things and above: partnerships, negotiations, contract negotiations, vendors, managing staff, handling issues that we have from the public as well. So I handle those issues, or I'm involved in facilitating discussions on how to resolve those issues as well.
Sure. You mentioned diversity, equity, and inclusion, right?
Yes.
How do you, in your role as executive director, make sure that those things are happening? What is in your perfect world, right? What does a library experience do to help the public get closer to those goals?
So I have something that I started as library director in Broward County, and it's 3 words: inviting the uninvited. Right? So that's really about making people feel welcome, right?
I like that.
And that's a concept. Those 3 words, right? Just having the library is one of the, if not the most democratic institution and available to everyone. And it doesn't matter how much money you make. It doesn't matter what your educational goals are, or where you've been in your education, your age. I mean, the library is open to everyone, and everyone is welcome at the library. If you don't, and that's that diversity, equity, and inclusion that I'm talking about, right? Because I serve everybody. My goal is to serve everybody. If you're a homeless person, that's fine. I'm going to try to get you the resources you need if you want them. The library is there for that. If you want to be, in this world, we're going, we're coming out of COVID, or at least it feels like it. Well, lots of people have lost their jobs. So the library is a place where you can learn a new skill. We support entrepreneurs. We work with Workforce Connections here. So I have something at the library for everyone in the community. Everyone in the community, there's something in the library. I even guarantee it. There's something in the library that you don't know that we have, that I can tell you about. For example, did you know that we have probably over 17 million free songs available for you that you can
17
stream
million free songs.
over that amount. Yes. So you can download 6 free songs a week from the library, unlimited streaming through our music service that we offer. So if you have Pandora or Sirius XM, FM, whatever that is, so you don't have. I mentioned that because I saw your eyes. You're like, oh, so if you're paying for something, I have that. That's why I say the library probably has something for everybody.
Oh, I mean, certainly in the Treasury, we're always looking for opportunities to get things for free that we were paying for. And my wife and daughter only listen to about 6 Taylor Swift songs. So you could really be saving us quite some money. So thank you for that. Now, so if someone hasn't been to the library in the past, right? They walk in, there's a lot of systems and signs. What's the best way for folks to get reacquainted? What do you encourage people to do when they go to the library? Maybe for the first time in a while.
Mm-hmm. So I actually encourage, as I said, since we are available to everyone, and I probably am one of the library directors or library individuals who say that you could come to the physical library if you choose to. And you walk in, there's a circulation desk, and we have lots of information to get you reacquainted or acquainted with a library card and those services. But if you never wanted to walk into the library, the physical building, and you just wanted to access those free songs, you can just go to our website, the Las Vegas Clark County, lvccld.org, and apply for a digital library card, and you never have to walk in the building. So my philosophy is that the library is open 24/7. We've got physical buildings that are, community oriented, where you can go see, you can participate in a performance, a program, you can check out a book, you can sit and read the newspaper, you can use the computer, we have free Wi-Fi. But if you're, the individual that says, I don't have time to go to the library, I don't read physical books, I don't need any of that stuff, I listen to my books, for example, or I read ebooks, you can just go. We have a 24/7 online website that's a library location, and people don't think about that. The other thing that I'll share with you, Zach, is that in Florida, and these are some of the things that I'm beginning to talk about and potentially work on here. I actually worked on a all digital library at the Fort Lauderdale Hollywood Airport.
Okay.
So we put a library location with no physical books, just seating and a QR code that you could scan, and you were able to, instructions to actually get a library card and start using the digital library. And that's another example of what I mean. You don't ever have to come to a physical library if you don't want to.
That's excellent. And let's dive in a little bit farther there.
Yeah.
What other things are you trying to get done in this new executive director role for Clark County and for Las Vegas?
So first, let me say, I recognize that every community is different. I mentioned that I worked in New York. I worked in Queens. So you can imagine Queens, New York City itself, right? Over 10 million people in New York. That's certainly a different community. Broward is another community. And so that was unique, and I worked on different projects there. So the things that I'm thinking about here is potentially some type of library location at Nellis Air Force Base, for example.
Yeah.
Being a veteran, I'm a big supporter of the military, big supporter of veterans, military families. So I'll always look for initiatives to support our servicemen and women. And so Nellis, I've already been out there. I'm planning another trip out there next week, actually, next Friday, to talk about how we do something, some type of library location. And maybe one of those all digital libraries, right? The another project that I worked on in Florida that we're in the process of working on here, and we're having conversations, is I put digital pop-up libraries on buses in Florida, in Broward County. So I've already, So you get on the bus,
Yeah.
and it didn't require a library card. Actually, we had information, and that was we leverage a mobile hotspot.
Okay.
That's its own unique hotspot. It's plugged into the bus. I'm simplifying this, but it's plugged into the bus, and you can start reading a book again without having a library card, and it introduces you there. And for your long or short commute, uh, to start, working with the library. So that's essentially how it works. I simplified it, but that's pretty much what the
Sure.
project is.
Sure. Sure.
But so we've had a couple of conversations with RTC to
Mhm.
actually launch something like that here in the Las Vegas, Clark County area. And another project is, I'm working with the schools. I'm trying to get that partnership going with the Clark County School District, which is, I had a project that we worked on. I won't even call it a project. It was a partnership with the Broward County schools, where we actually were so far ahead when COVID hit. We had about 85,000 students who already had a digital library card because of our partnership that we had established with schools. And that's a public, so they had access to the public library resources when they were at home, your homeschooling and the parents, and that just worked out beautifully. And like as I mentioned, I think we were definitely one of the library systems ahead of the game. And so I'm working to establish a similar relationship here, if possible, with Clark County School District.
What does best case scenario look like for where the school district and their libraries sort of end and the county's libraries begin? How does that relationship work in a
So
perfect way?
the perfect world is, so the public library is, the goals are not to replace the school library nor the school education system.
Mhm.
We really support what the schools do, whether they be the public schools or even, in my case, the community colleges or even UNLV. So because the public library has something for everyone, as I mentioned, we are not, focused on being known as the place for education, for example, but really just the place to support those initiatives. For example, the public school could give out a reading assignment, and they only have a certain amount of. I used To Kill a
Sure.
Mockingbird all the time. Well, the public library, we have numerous copies, and we can support that curriculum in that way, without actually having to be a part of the school system, and or vice versa. Um, so that's that unique relationship of being a supporter and, a good partner, when it comes to the schools and what we do when it comes to the academics.
Got it. Okay, thank you. Now, we're right now on Facebook. Most of the angry emails I get from folks seem to be completely based on things that they've read on social media and the internet. How have social media and the internet impacted libraries, right? Tell me about how that interaction plays out.
So again, this is one of my two-parters. There's pre-COVID, and there's going to be probably
Perfect.
during COVID.
My next question was about COVID, so
Right,
just keep rolling.
so with social media, um, libraries, uh, we to increase our audience. Remember what I said, you don't have to come in the physical library.
Mhm.
So the libraries, it's sort of the reach out. So we leverage social media to reach out, to communicate about our public programs, about our resources, or even just to do an announcement to say, hey, we got a new executive director here. Now, COVID changed the dynamics, just like for as we are doing this via Zoom, right?
Mhm.
where we had to leverage Facebook Live, for example, to deliver programming. So that was a way that so because people weren't able to come into and now I'm talking Broward, people weren't able to come into the physical library. So we leveraged social media to deliver our programming. And the advantages actually of what the results have been is that now you didn't just have to focus on your individual community. With social media, you have a worldwide audience, you have a nationwide audience.
Mhm.
So we did I'll talk about a program we did there. We did a 2-day book festival actually, and we had people from all around the world participating. I think it was over 5,000 people participating. So not just in Broward County now, it's all over the
Sure,
world.
sure.
And that's, I think, that's what social media has done. It's really expanded our reach even much further than just sending out emails, an email newsletter, and such. Now you can actually deliver the services that direction. And what I have started to discuss here with the team is that even as we go out of COVID, post COVID, that we as a library need to have a to continue that virtual component
Mhm.
of our programming, because now it may not be as frequent because people will be able to come in, but we need to think about having a for any physical program, we need to have a complementary digital program.
Mhm.
And so that's that vision I talked about earlier. You got to figure out how to get ahead of this thing so that because you never know what's next. We didn't expect COVID, and how that would impact our communities and libraries and every place else, and who knows what's going to be next. So it's best to be prepared.
Agreed, agreed. And we've been finding the same thing too, right? There are going to be some people that want to continue experiencing things virtually. It is
Mhm.
frankly easier in a lot of ways, right? For me to go from whatever the last thing was to this to whatever the next thing is,
Right.
same for you, as opposed to having to get together, as pleasant as that would be. So I think we're going to keep, it's right. It's finding the balance,
Yeah,
right?
it's finding balance.
It's finding
Yeah.
the balance.
Yeah.
Okay, so now you're in a fraternity. We talked about this earlier. Can you
Yes.
talk to us a little bit about the experience of being a member and how that's played a role in your life and career?
Well, so yes, I'm a member of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated, and I'm a member of the graduate chapter. So there's a graduate alumni chapter. I haven't joined the Las Vegas chapter yet, but interestingly enough, I was just in West Las Vegas, and I ran into about 4 or 5 fraternity brothers that I hadn't had an opportunity to meet, but we're all
Perfect.
brothers, so you meet those. And so there's a meeting tomorrow night that I'll be participating in. So, so I'll talk a little bit more about just the interactions of working in the community and the work that the fraternities and sororities do, specifically the Divine Nine, the African American fraternities and sororities. So it's allowed me to just give back on another level. Um, you know what what my fraternity is that we I'll call it our motto for folks, but it's we believe in achievement in every field of human endeavor. That's our that's what we do. So for me, and if you recognize from what I've already covered, I'm an achiever. So that's what it's meant to me. I can look back and say, there's Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated, and achievement in every field of human endeavor. And I'm a librarian, so
Mhm.
that's a field of human, one that not a lot
Surely.
of us are participate in. So that's what it's meant for me, is actually delivering on what we stand for, and actually being an example to my fraternity brothers, but also to the community. That's who I am, and what I stand for, and that I live it every day. I live it. I live it every day. The motto. I actually, if you are in my office, you would see that I have something I learned while going through the fraternal process, was the poem Invictus. And so I have a big, it's on my wall right there, Invictus. I've got one over on my desk over here as well, because I got a couple of copies of Invictus here in my office. And I've even got this. I might pull this back and see if I can grab this, but I got this as well. Achievement in every field of human endeavor. So that's that's who I am, and that's what it's meant to that's what it's meant to me, and more. But that's the achievement, and really accomplishment, and giving back to the community, the youth, being an example for the community, um, regardless of who they are. I represent, I'm, somebody asked me once, or a few times, they say, what are you going to do, for this particular part of the community? And I said, well, I'm the library director for the entire community. I don't just focus on one, nor do I focus on any one particular service, because I am about, as I mentioned, equity, diversity, and inclusion. So that's for everybody. Yeah.
All right, well, I appreciate you sharing that, and I think the Invictus thing resonated with me a bit, because I've always found that it's helpful to have a document or a poem or a speech. I use Teddy Roosevelt's 1912 "Man in the Arena" speech. Right, it's not the critic who counts, nor the man who right. As a way to center when we start losing our path temporarily, right, and get back to the work at hand. So I appreciate you sharing that. In your career, you've received many awards and achievements. I
lost you for a minute, Zach.
Oh, can you hear me?
I can't hear you.
Can you hear me? Oh, nope. See, technology.
No,
can you hear me?
Oh, I can hear you now.
Hey, all right.
I can hear you now. All right.
Technology. It's technology.
Yes, that's yes.
So in your career, you've received many awards and achievements. We had a whole list. I cut it out because we're only here for an hour. But tell us, which one has been most rewarding for you, and why?
So I won't. There's a couple. So I'll mention a couple. One, this is a recognition that I received as I mentioned, I attended a desegregated high school, where I think there was probably about 1,500 students. Only 300 of us were African American from the inner city. So there was an hour and a half bus ride every day, 45 minutes to school, 45 minutes home. So it's been a few years now, but I was inducted into my high school's Hall of Fame, Alumni Hall of Fame. So that was something, that was huge, being that coming from where I came from, and that I was being recognized for my accomplishments, and that was probably 15 years ago. So that's so since then, I've had a ton more. One of the most recent ones is the proclamation that I received when I left Broward County, and they recognized February 9th, 2021 as Kelvin Watson Day.
Nice.
And that was huge for me, and just recognizing again the accomplishments and the contributions that I had made, not only from the library side, but also from the community. Florida Librarian of the Year. I was the 2019 the Florida Librarian of the Year, and the library actually was the 2020 Library of the Year as well. And then so the last one would be the Black Caucus of the American Library Association, of which I'm a past president. And I mentioned how I started in libraries, not even being a librarian. I worked in this association, and I became a member ultimately to be the president 2014 to 2016. And they provided me with a few awards over the years, BCLA Distinguished Service Award, and also I was awarded for excellence in librarianship. So those are a few. There's tons more, but those are just a few that I couldn't pick one. There's a they're the ones that have been most rewarding for me.
See, folks, like we said, if we went through the entire list, we'd be here for a couple of days. So thanks for helping us focus for a second. Okay, last serious question, then we'll get to our lightning round, which is primarily about the Dewey Decimal System. Tell us a little bit about the pros and cons of being in the library industry. What advice do you have for students who might be thinking to themselves, God, I love the library. This is the business I want to be in.
So I thought about this question, and I would tell you I couldn't find any cons. People have been saying that the libraries, they've been planning the demise of libraries since we started the internet. People say, well, why do you need to go to the library? You just Google it. Okay, no, that we're still here. So I couldn't find any cons. Libraries are going to be here. And we're in this virtual environment now. I talked about how we're available 24/7. You don't have to even come in the doors. The one thing that I would share with anyone that's interested, especially youth, in a career in librarianship, is that librarians and people who are in the information profession business, we're everywhere. I've already demonstrated that in my career, just talking about how I worked at the National Agricultural Library for the USDA. There's the president of the United States. There's a library role. There's a librarian that works at the White House. There's banks have libraries. The state library. There's a state library in Nevada. News programs, ABC, CBS, NBC. They all have information professionals, librarians that work with them, movie studios. So I figured out, as one of the individuals that's in this profession, that there's a library role in pretty much every field of human endeavor. There's a library role for you to actually participate in, right? So that's the something that people don't realize, right? I didn't realize it until I got into the profession, and there's business librarians, law librarians, the public librarians, and then there's roles for you in the library without having to have a master's of library science. So you can work at a library and work in the library system, and you don't have to be a librarian. There's roles for you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. Tell us a little bit about some of the free services for families you've got coming up this summer at the library.
So this summer, the big thing for libraries in the summer is our summer learning, or in our case, our summer reading challenge. And so that kicks off in a couple of weeks, actually. And the date is escaping me, but it kicks off soon, and it's all summer long, all different types of programs and services for youth. We're going to be doing, our library here, we are currently partially open at about 50% for programming. By the time we get in the midst of summer, I believe we'll be at that 100% based on what the governor's guidance yesterday that I read about. So there's numerous events that you can participate in. The reading challenge, read some books, get some prizes. We're working with the Golden Knights. There's some opportunities to get some prizes there. So for any library, public library, summer is like the biggest time for reading, so that kids don't experience that summer slide. But guess what? We also have summer reading challenge for adults as well. So if so this isn't about just the kids. I'm encouraging all the adults as well to participate and read or listen to books, as well. I listen to about 2 to 3 books a week. So I'm I'm an avid listener. I walk a lot, so I listen to the books while I walk. Yeah.
Nice. Two birds with one stone there. Okay. Let's get into the lightning round. Kelvin, are
Okay.
you ready?
Yes.
All right. Favorite type of food?
I love barbecue. I love a lot of different foods, but I particularly love barbecue. Being from
You
St.
said
Louis.
I was going to say you were in St. Louis, right? That's very specific. I don't want to start
Yes.
some sort of, okay.
Yes. But it doesn't have to be St. Louis. It doesn't have to be St. Louis ribs or anything, because I actually prefer Texas barbecue probably over St. Louis. And
We won't tell anybody.
yeah, so yeah. And I lived think about all the places I lived. I've had
That's the
barbecue
thing,
in
right? I
all
mean,
over the country.
a lot of people say that New York is famous for its barbecue.
Yeah, but New York has good barbecue.
A lot of people, yeah.
Nashville,
That's where I grew up.
Tennessee, oh yeah, Nashville, but North Carolina barbecue as well. Just know you know.
Yes. Okay.
All right.
Favorite restaurant in Las Vegas?
So I just mentioned that I love barbecue. So for the past, I've been here 2 months. I've probably eaten at Famous Dave's more than any other place.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Excellent. There's some great barbecue joints in town. Famous Dave's being one of them. We'll do. We want to do a tour? We could do a tour.
I love it.
Perfect.
I love it. Can we do bourbon tours as well? Is that all? I don't
Barbecue
know.
and barbecue and bourbon.
Yeah.
Well, I'm in finance, so I'll try to figure it out.
All right.
We'll get there.
All right.
Okay. Let's talk Dewey Decimal System.
Mm-hmm.
What is your favorite Dewey Decimal class and why?
So I'm gonna flip it a little bit, Zach, and we'll call it a genre.
Okay.
We'll call it genre.
All right.
Okay?
All right. That's fine.
So my favorite, I listen to a little of both fiction and nonfiction.
Okay.
So
sure.
when I want to get, for the past year, I've been listening to a lot of books on social justice, for example, real serious, hard, just hard stuff that, so that's what I've listened to a lot more in the past year. But when I needed a break, I've listened to some fiction, which is always something that I just throw in as well, and a few leadership books.
Is there a type of fiction that you find yourself being more drawn towards?
Actually,
if it's Harry Potter, that's okay.
No. Well, it's more, to be honest, it's more guided towards like I like some James Patterson sometimes, but I really try to support African American authors. I'm a big supporter of some of it is a little romancy. Like I like Kimberly Lawson Roby. She has a series of 16 books, so I listen to all 16 of those in like a probably a 3-week period.
Okay.
But then but then I just listened to a book. It was called the Supremes Meet at Earl's restaurant or something like that. I'm losing the title, but it was a unique story about women and their friendship. So there isn't any necessarily type. I just like listening. I listen to learn. So even with the fiction material, I can still learn something. So that's really what keeps me engaged.
Do you prefer audiobooks read by the author or by some celebrity or just a pleasant voice?
Well, not all authors know how to read. I have to tell you that. So it depends. It definitely depends. I prefer the books that I listen to that are read by the author to really be the nonfiction ones, like Michael Eric Dyson. He does a great job. He's a great reader of his own material. I'm re-listening to a book now called Turn the Ship Around by David Marquet. He's reading it. Fiction, you have to get an actor or actress, somebody that really knows how to do it for the fiction, because the fiction I visualize. I'm one of these people that can actually hear it and visualize what they're talking about. And so when it's the actors and actresses bringing it to life, it's great. Like Morgan Freeman, for example, if you listen to him, but he does a good job. Yeah, but his voice, right? And but he can change. But like I said, the nonfiction, Michael Eric Dyson, he reads his stuff well. I mean, and you can hear his he's a minister, so you can hear the inflections of his voice rising and falling as he's reading, and the seriousness, and so those are a couple examples.
Okay, I like it. Now, you've lived in a lot of different states, so I've got to ask you, what is your favorite state in the union, and why is it Nevada?
Well, it's definitely, honest answer. As you can probably see, I'm pretty honest. Financially, Nevada is that's one of the reasons. I mean, I looked at the numbers, and from the financial standpoint,
We
Nevada
do a hell of a job on the financial side.
yeah. So
I've always said
that's an honest answer. That's not a no BS.
So,
but beyond that, I think my wife and I were talking about this the other day. There's something in every state that I've lived in that I have truly enjoyed. Nashville, I enjoyed. Florida, I enjoyed until hurricane season, but I enjoyed it all most of the time. New York, I
wait till August.
Yeah, well, it's going to be hurricanes in August, so
you can really compare.
I can the hurricanes. But New York, when I lived in New York City, I could get on the subway from Queens and be in Manhattan, and that was just amazing every time I did it, and I did it often. We went to a show every other week, so that's every state, Maryland, I could be in. I love history, so living in the DC area, going to George Washington's house in Mount Vernon, going to Alexandria. So yeah, Alexandria, Virginia. So I can tell you about a lot, because I typically will explore whatever area I'm in to kind of get the flavor. Yeah.
Okay, I love it. Now, last question. We don't have too much time, but I got to ask you, if you had a magic wand and could change one thing in the world, what would it be?
Another honest answer that I'm struggling with is just what's happening in just what's happening in the world today. Not just today, it's been just historically going on, and it's just visually disturbing to me what's happening, for example, in Minneapolis. So if I was to change anything, that's what I would change. I mean, I seriously am struggling with that more and more. Before, not just talking about last year, just struggling with it all my life, just being a African American man. So if I had a magic wand, that's what I would change.
Well, Kelvin, thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for sharing your journey, your advice, and for letting our viewers know about all the different resources libraries have to offer. Now we'll be sending out some tweets and Facebook messages about some of the links that you shared earlier on. But unfortunately, we've reached the conclusion of our time today. So if you need more of Kelvin and I, please feel free to find us at Famous Dave's. We'll be in the back with the bourbon. For those of you with children who love reading or aspire to be librarians, hope you found today's event to be inspiring. By continuing to highlight leaders who have made a difference in Nevada's history, we want to empower young people and encourage them as they pursue their dreams. As parents, we can help with their aspirations by planning for, saving for, and then eventually paying for their higher education. With that said, we ask that you not forget to claim your child's college Kickstart account. That is, every kindergartner in public school in the state of Nevada has $50 waiting for them to help, again, on that journey to plan for, save for, and pay for college. You can find out more about College Kickstart and our other programs at navigate.gov. That's NVIGATE.gov. Now, for anybody who claims their College Kickstart account by midnight on April 30th, will be automatically entered into a raffle to win $1,000 in an SSGA You Promise 529 account. I'd also like to remind everyone who's been thinking about starting a Nevada prepaid tuition program that the deadline to enroll is also April 30th. So you can just go to our page, sign up for everything, you'll be in great shape. Again, you can learn more by visiting navigate.gov. That's NVIGATE.gov. Don't forget to follow us on social media to stay up to date with all the amazing contents and events our College Savings Division has in store for you. We hope you join us again on National Kindergarten Day April 21st for another wonderful event where we'll be raffling some amazing items. The link to register will be on our Facebook page. You won't want to miss it. Hope you all have a safe and healthy day. Please get out to your local library and support them. And again, I'm Zack Conine, your state treasurer. Kelvin, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks, Zach. It's been a pleasure.
Have a great day, everybody.